All right, now we're ready.
48. So it says, Mina Mosayim, that if you have 1 in 200th, if you have wine that's from Orla, so it's nullified 200 to 1. Mikan Orla Shabitla b'Masayim. Mimashke Yisrael. Minamuter Yisrael. That things that are offered on the Mizbech as Nesachim have to be permitted beverages. Mikananu ein mevi'im Nesachim and Tevel. So, for example, you can't bring wine libations from grapes that they haven't given Trumas Meisers from. Yachol lo yavim min hamuktzah. I might think things that haven't been prepared for Shabbos or Yontif from Erev Shabbos that you couldn't bring from Muktzah, Amrit Ma Tevel, Miyuchad She Isser Gufo Garim Law. Tevel is an intrinsic Isser. Of course, She Isser Gufo Garim Law. Muktzah is not, because after Shabbos it's permitted. Yatsu Muktzah Shein Isser Gufo Garim Law, Isser Davracher Garim Law, which is Muktzah. It's not an intrinsic prohibition. Now, here comes the point. Now, we said yesterday that there was a Havamina that perhaps Muktzah is Midaraisa. Well, if it's Daraisa, Mali Isser Gufa, Mali Isser Davracher, why would there be a difference between whether it was prohibited intrinsically or not? Another problem, in fact, if you do not know that 3 or 4 malachos are prohibited on Shabbos, and you do all 3 or 4 in one period of forgetfulness, you bring 3 chatases. Now, if you violate multiple lavim on Yontif, you only bring 1. So this whole thing that you could bring multiple lavim for violation of Yontif was not correct. Ela'afa kavara, right? One of the prohibitions we said was lighting a fire on Yontif. We take that out because we prove that that's not a problem. The ayel atse ashera. He used wood that was worshipped as an avodah zarah. Where's the law? Vazar me'acha v'lo yitbak b'yavcha me'ulam menachem. Should be another law. Don't bring the toeva, the avodah zarah, to your house. So that would bring you 2 lavim, not 1. So rather, you have to replace havara, ela'avik havara v'ayilat say hegdish. Wood that belongs to hegdish is what you use. And where is the lav? Vazar me'acha, because it says v'asherem tishafun ba'esh, lo tasun kain la'Hashem lokechem. Period. Amar Rav Chama, Had Rav Chisda v'Rabba. This machlokes of hoyel, that you're allowed to cook on Yontif for chol because guests are coming, it's really machlokes Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Eliezer saw Rabbi in hoyel, right? Rabbi Eliezer said, go ahead and bake the matzah. Remember we were talking about if it's tamei, if you have tamei dika dough, bake it and don't, and we're worried that it's going to become chametz. Bake it, and then later on, do kriyas Hashem. After it's baked, there's no longer a chametz. And Rabbi Yeshua said, it's not a problem. This chametz doesn't belong to you because it's challah, it's hegdish, it's not personal asset. But it also could be Rabbi Eliezer said, I mean, in hoyel. So go ahead and bake it because maybe guests will come. And Rabbi Yeshua says you can't bake it because lo amin and hoyel. That's why he says you can't bake it. Rav Papa the Gemara says no. Dil ma'ad kam lekam Rabbi Eliezer hasam. Damin hoyel ela to be eaten to ko alu tanura kol chada v'chada chazel adidei. That maybe Rabbi Eliezer will only say hoyel by after the hafrashas challah case. He puts many loaves into the oven. Each one is roy for himself. And we don't know for sure which one is going to be mafresh challah. Aval hacha, the l'orchinu dechazi. But in the case of regular hoil, where you're cooking it because orchim are coming, l'didei loy chazi. It's really that roy for the orchim, not for him. Yes, we say that. The lo amrin and hoil, and therefore we see that you can't prove that Rabbi Eliezer holds of hoil. And on Rav Sheshes Brei Ravidi V'Dilma Lohi, even for Rabbi Yoshua it doesn't work. You have one challah that's not roy. Not for him, not for orchim, because challah can only be eaten by kohanim. But here, when you're on a Yom Tov afternoon, when you're baking and it's chol tomorrow, where at least the orchim can eat it, maybe he'll also say hoy. So this sugya was repeated. Amru Rabbanan Kamed Rav Yirmiyah Rav Zera, and Rav Yirmiyah Kibla, Rav Zera loy Kibla. Rav Yirmiyah accepted it, Rav Zera did not. Amle Rav Yirmiyah Rav Zera Milsa the Kashalon Va'asyan Kamashani, something that was for many years a problem. That b'may pligi Rabbi Ezra Rabbi Yoshua hashtam ro mishmei gaver rabbav lo nekabli. Now he explained it, that the machlokes is whether he accepts oil or not, and you're not accepting it. Why should I accept it? The Tanina. We learned a b'rais. Amalei Rabbi Yoshua. Lidvarecha harehu over mishum lo sasa kol lacha. If you're going to go ahead and bake this bread, right, because you have dough, we're concerned that it's going to become chametz, and it's truma tmei, right, it's tameh, so nobody can eat it. Well, you're not allowed to cook it. You're over lo sasa kol lacha, because you can't cook something on Yom Tov that's not going to be eaten. The shosik lay. Now the isa, and if it's correct, hoil is correct, lemalei, time adidi mishum oil. But he didn't say that. Omer lay, so the tamech, according to your svara, had the tanina b'brais, so that which we learn in the brais, Omer Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer responded to Rabbi Yoshua, Lid varecha, harehu oiver mishum bayir bayamotzei. You're keeping the dough unbaked. It's going to be in chametz. You're going to be over by Rabbi Motzei. The shasik lay didn't respond, and hochanami de lo hader lay. So what do you mean didn't respond? Hakom hader lay mastis. This nan lo zel chametz shmuzar mishum by Rabbi Motzei. This doesn't belong to him, right? Because we say it's not considered mamlein hedyoy. So hochanami emer shasik lay masnisan the hader lay b'mechil tachrisi. So it could be that he was quiet in the Mishnah, but he answered properly in another location. In fact, Tanya Rebbe Omer, halachah Rabbi Ezra, that you can bake this matzah and then later on give it as challah. You don't have to worry about, and then burn it. You don't have to worry about it becoming chametz. However, Yitzchak Omer halacha could be the same. Now, Kamashir Isa. How much dough should you have that you're going to need where you're not worried that it's going to become chametz? Rabbi Shmuel ben Yoshua Rav Yechim Rav Omer, bechitin by wheat kabayim, 2 cups. B'sa'oirin shloishes kabim. You can go up to 3 cups. Rav Nazar and Rav Eliezer chiluf advorim, the opposite. By wheat it's 3, by sa'orim it's 2. And we have another girsa which says by wheat it's 3 kav and by barley it's 4 kav. So that's not a problem. Lo kasha. So it depends if it's very fine quality, you need a smaller amount. If it's a larger quality, you need a bigger amount. Amrav Papa Shmami Noah, green chiti chasikta mechiti ma'al yisa, that the impure wheat is much more deleterious than good wheat. The delta between good and bad by wheat is more tfei mitigarina and sari chasik than the difference between good barley and bad one. Because the ilu hasam tilsav river. because it's 3 versus 4, I mean it's a quarter. The difference between 2 kavs and 3 kavs is a third, and by barley it's only a quarter. So it depreciates more by wheat than by barley. Amarav kaba melugna lepischa. A malugnin kav is the right shear to need to avoid chametz. And it's the same b'chein l'chala. That shear is the shear that you have to be mafresh chala from that amount of dough. 5/4 kav is the shear for challah, not this other one. So hachakar kaba malugna nami ahashir. Okay, it's the same shear. The kaba malugna is chameshes revoim kemach. Amrav Yosef, hani nashi didan, our women, nog lemefa kviza lepischa. They make small loaves for Pesach because they don't want to make a big matzah because they're worried it's going to become chametz. So they make small amounts, right? They use 3/4 of a kav for Pesach in order to be careful for it not to become chametz. So Amalei by my daitik l'chumra. What do you mean? They're stringent because they want to avoid chametz, but chumra doesn't make kulu. But it's leading to a leniency where they don't have to be mafresh challah because they're not making one big dough. They do like Rabbi Yezer. We learned this in the Tzur Bashir, the Tanya. Rabbi Yezer Oimer Haroidev and Oisin Lasal. You remove loaves from the side of an oven and you put it in a basket and you gather enough so that in the basket is the shir challah, asal mitzvah from the challah. The basket sort of unifies all the dough to give you a chiyuv challah. Allah Rabbi Yezer, the law is like that. Amar Levi Itmar Allah, Amar Yishur ben Levi Loishan Alaki Krishel Bavel. That's only loaves from Babylonia, Shenoichel Zumizu, because they touch each other. Aval Ka'achim lo, but ones that are separate and that you put in a basket and they don't touch, there's no itztarfus. So boy Rav Yirmiyah, Tavlo she'ein lo leviz bazin ma. What if you put it on a table that doesn't have legs? Is it considered toch kli be'inan v'haleka? You need to put the loaves sort of within a kli, and there's no within a kli here. It's on a surface. Oy dilma avir kli be'inan v'ha'ika, but there's a airspace to this kli, and you have it. Take. Tanya of Lezer Oimer Hassan mitzarfim. The basket will be mitzaref these chalos. We show him Taner mitzarfim. Putting him in the oven will mitzaref them. They have to be touching. So again, we learned Yoredeya Shin Chav Daled. The sheer kemach is 43 eggs and 1/5 of an egg. That's the sheer. We don't need need dough more than a nisarum, which is also 43 eggs for Pesach. But since you want to worry about chametz, you need less than the shear that you need for challah. But then you bring them together so they touch, and then you'd have a chiyuv challah. Or you could put them all in a basket, even after you bake it, and then you could be mafresh challah, and that's like Rabbi Yezer. Mishnah. Rabbi Gamliel Omer, Shalosh Nashim Loshois Ka'achas. 3 women can work on a dough together. And Oifos B'taner Echad. They can bake in one oven. Zu achar zu. You don't have to worry that in the period of time that they're waiting, that it's going to become chametz. They all have to work on the same dough. And achas lasha, one kneads, achas rechas, one braids it, achas soiva, one bakes it. And Rabbi Kiva, Amir local anashiv, local eitzim, local it you can't make a general rule. If the wood that is used is very dry, it makes very hot, it won't become chametz. And certain ovens will be less, and certain women will know how to do. They're not lazy. Ze'aklal, tapach, til tosh pitzonim. If you see it rising, put cold water on it. That will stop the leavening process. Ton rabbanon losha himekatefes. So one of the women is kneading, the other one is
arranging the dough.
Yeah, like braiding it to make it.
Doesn't say that exactly, but okay.
Yeah, but that's what the Mishnah meant. Because
the Mishnah said that, yeah.
Right, and the Gemara is explaining what it means. Mekatefes means they're taking the dough and making it into the challah, which usually is by braiding. You don't have to braid it; you could make it round, but they're preparing the final process of the dough before it goes in the oven. That's mekatefes. Mekatefes he ofa v'chaver mekatefes tachteh. And then the one who bakes, the friend is. That means it's like an assembly line. They keep on working on. The dough is always worked on in order for it not to sit there and get chametz. Then they change. Ofa, the one who bakes, he lasha, she goes and kneads. The chaver to ofa tachteh, it's like a round robin. And the middle one now bakes. Goes round and round and round. As long as someone is working the dough, it won't become chametz. And then Rabbi Kiva, Omer, you can't make a general rule. Local anoshim, not all women are the same. Tanya, Rabbi Kiva, Danti lifnei Rabbi Gamliel. I discussed this in front of Rabbi Gamliel. Ilamdeinu Rabbeinu benoshim zrizos or benoshim she'ein zrizos. That means what kind of women are we talking about? Lazy ones or not lazy ones? Be'etzim lachim, be'etzim yeveshim. Are they dry wood or is it moist wood? B'taner chama, b'taner tzonim. Is it a hot oven or a cold oven? We have what the Chachamim said, Ze'aklal tapach til tosh b'tzoy. If you see the dough rising, you should put cold water on it, which will stop the leavening process. Mishnah, seer, yisarif. Seer is chametz that you didn't. It only leavened partially. So the din is you should burn it. Va'ochlo potter. If you eat it, there's no kares because it wasn't full chametz. Siduk, if it became cracked and it rose, then you have to burn it as well. And va'ochlo chayv kares. This is mamish chametz. Ezeu seer kekarne chagovim. Seer is like there is raised amounts like the antenna of a grasshopper. Siduk, Shenis Arvu Stokim says that these like antenna are all mixed together. They disagree. They say seer is also chametz. Seer. If the face of the dough is pale, like a person's hair stands on end because somebody scared him. The dough becomes pale, like a person gets scared. Siduk is kekarne chagovim. That's how Rab Meir learns. And siduk shenis arvu stokim zevazeh. And the Chachamim holds zevazeh oich l'chayv kares. But Rav Meir holds seer, you're not chayv kares. That Rabbi Yehuda says it's potter. That means Emel Rab Meir zevazeh oich l'chayv kares. In the sheet of Rav Meir, that if it's kekarne chagovim, Rav Meir held that was full chametz, and therefore if you ate it, you'd be 5 cars. Amar Rav, my time, Rav Meir. Because if you see cracks on the top, there's always going to be cracks on the bottom, proving that the dough has become chametz. Okay. I have